Thank you for joining me. E-juice is one of the key parts of using an open system vaporizer. E-juice comes in bottles like this, and it can contain up to 4 different ingredients: vegetable glycerin, propylene glycol, flavoring, and liquid nicotine. And one of the most noticeable parts of e-juice are the labels. On the market today for sale are a number of e-juice labels that, while not targeted at kids, would certainly be attractive to kids. And for the future strength of the vaping industry, I think it's important to look at these labels and look for ways to improve them. E-juice labels are in essence a form of advertising. It's how the products are advertising. E-juice is what people see, and I think whether we like it or not, right now vaping or electronic cigarettes, if you want to call them that, at least at the moment, are being associated with the smoking of tobacco cigarettes. Part of it is historical, part of it is also the fact that most vapors are former smokers. And also visually, vaping looks like smoking. Now, when you use a vaporizer, it does not produce any smoke, it does not produce any secondhand smoke, and it is a completely different consumer product than a traditional combustible cigarette. But sometimes perception is reality. And at the present moment, in the public's mind, vaping is seen as an outgrowth of the smoking industry, and rather than what it should be, which is a product and a market into itself. And so while this is not fair and not true, vaping should be seen as its own industry and market, we can't really change history, and I think it's very important to understand history to see where we are and where we've come. Now, one of the main charges leveled at the vaping industry right now is that the products are being marketed to children, and that using an electronic cigarette will then lead to the use of traditional combustible cigarettes and combustible tobacco use. However, the facts right now show that these assumptions are not true. Recently, a report from the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention said that cigarette smoking among U.S. high school students is at its lowest level in 22 years. By achieving a teen smoking rate of 15.7%, the United States has met its National Healthy People 2020 objective of reducing adolescent cigarette use to 16% or less. So what we're seeing is that teen smoking is at an all-time low. And certainly the use of vapor products and electronic cigarettes are on the rise. And so if the use of e-cigarettes or vapor products was leading to traditional tobacco smoking, you would see them both rise at the same time. But that is not what's happening. The other confusing part of this is that most of the surveys about teens' use of electronic cigarettes never seem to ask the teens whether or not there's nicotine present in the product. Now, e-juice can contain liquid nicotine, but it doesn't have to contain liquid nicotine. E-juice can be a zero, or something that just contains the glycerin suspension and flavoring without any liquid nicotine. And certainly, if a teen was to pick up a vaporizer and use nicotine-free e-juice, rather than picking up the habit of using traditional combustible tobacco cigarettes, that would be a big win for public health. But we still, even though the trends are moving in the right direction, we need to make sure that vaping products stay out of the hands of minors. And so I think for scientific reasons, it's important that minors are not using products that contain nicotine, and also history is against the vaping industry. And for that, you can thank the incredible recklessness of the tobacco industry during the last half century. The big tobacco companies have been targeting young people for decades, and the public and the government are not very happy about it. And just to show you, here are a few commercials from the 1950s and 1960s.
C-A-N-E-L, yes.
How mild, how mild, how mild can a cigarette be? Make the Camel 30-day test, and you'll see.
Gee, we ought to do something, Fred. Okay? How's about taking that? I got a better idea. Let's take a Winston break. That's it! Winston is the one filter cigarette that delivers flavor 20 times a pack. Winston's got that filter blend.
Yeah, Fred. Filter blend makes the big taste difference, and only Winston has it up front where it counts. Here, ahead of the pure white filters, Winston packs rich tobacco specially selected and specially processed for good flavor in filter smoking.
Yeah, Barney, Winston tastes good like a cigarette.
Lucky Strike is made of fine, naturally good-tasting tobacco, and it's toasted to taste better, cleaner, fresher, smoother.
Yes, sir. Lucky's taste better. Anytime, anywhere. So right now, light up a Lucky.
America's most refreshing cigarette. Snow Fresh. Filter cool.
When tobacco advertising was banned from TV in 1971, the industry turned to print advertising featuring young people. And of course, the infamous Joe Camel. Now, rightly or wrongly, the public perception of Joe Camel was that it was targeting young people. Joe Camel became the literal symbol of the tobacco industry's attempts to get young people to smoke. And then, in 1994, the 7 CEOs from the biggest tobacco companies made asses out of themselves during the famous Waxman hearings at the U.S. Capitol. And here's a clip.
Let me begin my questioning on the matter of whether or not nicotine is addictive. Let me ask you first, and I'd like to just go down the row, whether each of you believes that nicotine is not addictive. I heard virtually all of you touch on it, and just yes or no. Do you believe nicotine is not addictive?
I believe nicotine is not addictive, yes.
Mr. Johnston.
Congressman, cigarettes and nicotine clearly do not meet the classic definitions of addiction. There is no intoxication.
We'll take that as a no, and again, time is short. If you could just, I think each of you believe nicotine is not addictive. We just would like to have this for the record.
I don't believe that nicotine or our products are addictive.
I believe nicotine is not addictive.
I believe that nicotine is not addictive.
I believe that nicotine is not addictive.
And I too believe that nicotine is not addictive.
And it got worse from there. With every tobacco company CEO lying about the health effects of smoking, they said it doesn't lead to cancer or respiratory problems, and either lied or failed to answer very simple and straightforward questions. What needs to happen now, though, is that vaping needs to become its own industry. And it needs to be a responsible industry with the goal of helping adult smokers to use a much, much less harmful product. Unfortunately, there are too many vaping companies right now that are employing advertising and e-juice labels that at best are inappropriate and at worst very damaging to the entire vaping industry. So let me show you some examples. This is called Pancake Man. It obviously has a label that is cartoony. It shows pancakes, has a cartoon character, almost right out of a children's cartoon show. Here's another e-juice label. This is called Milkman. This obviously has a very, very cartoony front. In fact, this one, the top of it initially comes as a childproof top, but then when you want to dispense it, you have to change the top to a nozzle that looks like it's almost like a mustard or a ketchup bottle that is not childproofed. And, you know, children can read. And this Milkman not only is it very attractive to children, but it says milk on it and has strawberries. I think a child would definitely be attracted to that label. Here's another one. This one you can see comes in a box. The glass bottle is inside, called Marshmallow Man. It has a cartoon marshmallow on it. You can see there's marshmallows all over the box. And again, a child reading this would see Marshmallow Man, and they look on the back and it says sweet, fluffy, creamy, the original. And then there's very small writing, but there's nothing that identifies it as even e-juice or that this product should not be. I mean, it says shouldn't be used for minors, but the writing is so small you can barely even read it. I think even if you were to open it up and look at the bottle, it still has a cartoon character marshmallow on it. And what's kind of troubling about this particular product is that the cartoon marshmallow looks very much like a cereal box called S'mores cereal. And you can see here in this screen that the cartoon marshmallow looks almost identical to the child's cereal box. Now, my criticism of these products has nothing to do with the flavors. It really doesn't. It has to do with the labeling. You can make things flavored. I mean, there's birthday cake flavored vodka, there's Fruit Loops flavored vodka, there's alcoholic chocolate milk. So I don't think it really has to do with the flavors. The issue really is about the packaging and the presentation. E-juice labeling is how you present your product to the world. And if it has a cartoon character on it, that is attractive to children, even if you're not marketing it to children, I think that's something that's a real concern. It's a real problem. The other thing that I think is important to realize is that once these labels are created, the internet doesn't forget. So I've seen this pancake man without the cartoon on it, but pictures of this original cartoon version still persist all throughout the internet. And so that's a real concern because the images on the internet will last forever. I mean, when you look at some of these bottles, like for example, the Milkman bottle, I mean, if a child was to get a hold of this and drink it, can you imagine the news story with the cartoon label? So I think these products need to be labeled responsibly because they do contain liquid nicotine and they should be focused on adult use only. Let me give you some examples of labeling I think is very, very good. This is a brand called the Clean Vape, and this is called Loops. This liquid tastes just like Fruit Loops, the cereal. You're eating it right out of the box. But you can see the label is clearly not attractive to children. There's no cartoons on it. It's done very cleanly and simply, clearly for adult usage. Here's another one. It's a really nice label from a company called Vape 7 Days. This is called #TBT. And the flavor is a warm apple pie with the cinnamon and everything. It's an absolutely delicious flavor. Again, it's not designed for children at all. It doesn't look like it is, even in the slightest. Here's another one. This is called District 121. The flavor is an absolutely delicious salted caramel buttered pralines and cream. Again, it's not about the label. It's not about the flavor. It's about the label, and you can see it just says 121, clearly for adults. And then this is the e-juice bottle that we had designed for my vape shop. This is called Essential Flavors. This flavor is called Tranquility. We were going for an adult-oriented bottle, and you can see this bottle. The flavor here is a strawberry milkshake. But again, it's focused, the labeling is for adults, and I think it's very, very important that all the labeling and all the advertising be for adults. Let me show you another example. And this is a national magazine, a national vaping magazine from May of 2015. And in it is this advertisement. And you can see it's called Drip Boy with a cartoon rabbit on it. Now, my concern about this advertising is that not only is it a cartoon rabbit, but it says boy on it. I mean, I don't know the market that they're trying to appeal to, but if just looking at this, I don't know this company, but I mean, it looks like it's appealing to young boys. I mean, it even says boy in it. Now, just as an example of, another type of advertising, in the same magazine, this is an advertisement for another e-juice brand called Cutwood. And you can see this one is done very adult. You know, I mean, there's nothing childlike about this. Now, one of their flavors is called Mega Melons, and, it's a little juvenile. But clearly, the labeling and the advertising is adult-oriented. It is possible to do very, very good e-juice advertising and labeling focused for adults. And in my opinion, producing labels and advertising with cartoon characters is not a responsible way to market a product that contains liquid nicotine. These products, again, are for adults and should only be meant for adults. I picked 3 examples of cartoon labels. of liquids that are marketed nationally, but you know, I could literally show dozens and dozens and dozens of examples of e-juice labels with cartoon characters on them that could be appealing to children. Or labels that are made to resemble children's food or children's toys. I've seen a lot of labels with very clear copyright violations of logos that mimic products aimed at children. And if you listen to those concerned about public health, and if you listen to the researchers, and if you listen to government officials, and if you listen to politicians, and if you listen to the general public, they're all saying the same thing, that we need to keep these products out of the hands of children. And I own a vape shop, and I'm saying the same thing. We need to keep these products out of the hands of young people, and we need to start by changing the way these products are marketed and advertised. I strongly believe that vaping products need to be safe, available, and affordable for adults. And we have a historic opportunity here to separate these products from the traditional combustible tobacco products in that market and put a wide distance between vapor and what the big tobacco companies were doing and all the deception and irresponsibility that they have shown in the past. We need to do whatever we can do to prevent minors from using products that contain nicotine and to prevent minors from being attracted to products that contain nicotine. And so let's work together and let's do it. Thank you.